Welcome back to Void of Fears. Before we jump into today's story, I've got to ask for a quick favour. If you could smash that like button, drop a comment below, and hit subscribe if you haven't already. It seriously makes a huge difference. YouTube's algorithm loves that stuff, and it pushes my videos to new viewers who might dig these stories too. I really appreciate every single one of you who takes the time to do that. It means the world to me and helps keep this channel growing. Alright, enough of me rambling. Let's dive into today's story. The following documentary footage was discovered in an abandoned European Space Agency storage facility in Kiruna, Sweden in 2098. The material was labelled Classification Eyes Only Andromeda Deep Space Mission 2091. This documentary was scheduled for worldwide broadcast but was abruptly cancelled after a single test screening resulted in 17 viewers requiring immediate psychological evaluation, 3 suffering complete nervous breakdowns, and 1 individual who has not spoken since the viewing. The ESA has refused all requests for comment. What follows is the complete, unedited footage. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. The screen flickers to life with static that seems to pulse in rhythm with something organic before settling on the calm, professional face of Dr. Adrian Holt. He's a middle-aged astrophysicist with greying temples and intelligent brown eyes that reflect both excitement and something deeper, a barely perceptible unease that will prove prophetic. Behind him, the observation deck of a spacecraft reveals an endless field of stars, their ancient light creating a tapestry that has witnessed the birth and death of civilizations. Personal log, March 15th, 2091, 6:23 AM ship time. His voice carries the measured cadence of someone accustomed to precise documentation. This is Dr. Adrian Holt, aboard the starship Ardent Voyager, documenting humanity's first manned expedition to the Andromeda Galaxy. After 3 years of preparation, international cooperation between 17 space agencies and technological breakthroughs that would have seemed impossible just a decade ago, we've finally achieved what our species has dreamed of since first looking up at the stars. Holt turns slightly, gesturing to the magnificent spiral galaxy visible through the reinforced viewport. Even at this distance, Andromeda dominates the view like a cosmic whirlpool, its spiral arms rotating with the patience of eons, each revolution marking the passage of millions of years. Our destination lies 2.537 million light-years from Earth, a distance so vast that light itself takes over 2.5 million years to cross it. Andromeda contains approximately 1 trillion stars, making it the largest galaxy in our local cluster, and easily the most massive object visible to the naked eye from Earth's surface. The camera pulls back to reveal more of the observation deck, showing sophisticated monitoring equipment that hums with quiet efficiency and star charts covering nearly every available surface. Holt's workspace reflects the organized mind of a career scientist. Detailed calculations sprawl across multiple displays. Reference materials create neat stacks beside personal items that hint at a life beyond professional achievement. A photograph of a woman with kind eyes. A child's drawing labelled Daddy Among the Stars. A worn copy of Sagan's Cosmos. But we're not here as passive observers of distant celestial mechanics, Holt continues, his voice taking on the weight of historical significance. Our mission is unprecedented in its ambition, and I must admit, extraordinary in its risks. We're here to study the supermassive black hole at Andromeda's core, a gravitational monster weighing in at nearly 100 million times the mass of our Sun. The footage cuts to mission recordings from months earlier, showing the crew during their final preparations at Lunar Station, humanity's crown jewel of deep space engineering. The documentary format allows intimate glimpses into each crew member's background, revealing not just their qualifications but their humanity, the fears, hopes and dreams that drove them to volunteer for humanity's most dangerous journey. Commander Lucien Travaux appears on screen first, a weathered Frenchman in his early 50s, whose steel-grey hair and steady gaze speak of decades spent navigating the void between worlds. His quarters aboard the station reveal a man of simple tastes but deep connections. Photographs of the Loire Valley in autumn, a letter from his daughter beginning her first year at university, vintage navigation instruments that belonged to his grandfather who once guided ships across earthly oceans. Lucien represents the best of human exploration tradition. Holt's narration continues over footage of Travaux reviewing mission parameters with quiet intensity. He commanded the first successful expedition to Proxima Centauri, established the research station on Titan that still operates today, and somehow managed to bring his crews home alive from situations that should have been death sentences. His mission reports are required reading at every space academy in the solar system. The camera reveals Travaux in a quiet moment, writing carefully by hand in a leather journal, a practice he's maintained throughout his career because, as he once explained to a journalist, computers can fail in deep space, but thoughts written in ink become permanent fixtures in the universe. The documentary shifts to Dr. Elias Granger, a lanky biophysicist in his early 40s whose prematurely white hair and intense focus mark him as someone perpetually absorbed in complex problems. His laboratory aboard Lunar Station resembles organized chaos, biological samples from across the solar system, radiation detection equipment calibrated to tolerances measured in parts per trillion, and stacks of research papers annotated in his precise handwriting. Elias specializes in the biological effects of cosmic radiation. Holt explains as the footage shows Granger making microscopic adjustments to delicate instruments with the concentration of a surgeon. His research has kept astronauts alive on missions throughout the outer system. He developed the cellular protection protocols that make extended deep space missions possible, and his work on biological adaptation to extreme environments earned him the Korolev Prize at age 38. The camera captures Granger in his element, examining tissue samples under high magnification while simultaneously monitoring 3 different data streams. His dedication borders on obsession, but it's the kind of obsession that pushes human knowledge into new territories. Next, the documentary introduces pilot Kenji Arai, a compact Japanese officer whose perfect physical conditioning reflects decades of preparation for situations where human reflexes mean the difference between mission success and catastrophic failure. His training records scroll across the screen like a testament to human capability. Atmospheric flight certifications from Earth's most challenging environments, orbital maneuvering qualifications from every major space agency, experimental spacecraft testing that includes vehicles still classified years after their development. Kenji holds more flight certifications than anyone in the Solar Defense Corps. Holt's voiceover continues as they watch Arai running endless simulations on the Ardent Voyager's control systems, his movements precise and economical. He's test piloted every experimental spacecraft developed since the Mars colonization program, including prototype vessels that pushed the boundaries of materials science and propulsion physics. When you're traveling farther from home than any human in history, you want someone at the controls who can handle whatever the universe decides to throw at you. The footage shows Arai in meditation, a daily practice he maintains with military discipline. When asked about it in an interview segment, he speaks quietly. In space, panic kills faster than equipment failure. The mind must be like still water, capable of perfect reflection but ready to flow around any obstacle. Finally, the camera focuses on Chief Engineer Ilya Drovnik, a massive Russian whose hands bear the calluses and scars of someone who has spent years coaxing performance from machinery that operates at the edges of physical possibility. His engineering section aboard Lunar Station resembles a high-tech workshop crossed with an artist's studio. Diagnostic equipment monitors systems that exist nowhere else in human space. Spare components represent months of precision manufacturing, and detailed schematics of the ship's revolutionary propulsion system cover every available wall. Ilya designed and built the Axiom plasma drive that makes our mission possible, Holt explains as footage shows Drovnik making precise adjustments to machinery that seems to bend light around its edges. The technology remains largely theoretical to everyone except him. Without Ilya's engineering genius and intuitive understanding of exotic matter interactions, humanity would still be limited to our own solar system. Drovnik appears in a technical briefing, his thick Russian accent making complex physics sound like poetry. Dark matter flows through universe like invisible rivers. Most engineers, they try to fight these currents, push against them with brute force. But rivers are stronger than any machine. Better to learn rivers' nature, find ways to sail with currents instead of against them. The documentary then delves into the revolutionary technology enabling their unprecedented journey. Computer-generated animations illustrate the Axiom plasma drive's theoretical operation, showing how it creates controlled interactions between ordinary matter and the dark matter particles that permeate intergalactic space. The visuals are beautiful and terrifying, streams of invisible energy coursing through space like the circulatory system of something vast and alive. The Axiom plasma drive operates on principles that challenge our fundamental understanding of physics, Holt explains over diagrams that hurt to look at too directly. By generating precisely tuned electromagnetic fields, we can create temporary interfaces with dark matter currents that flow between galaxies. We're not pushing against space, we're swimming through it. The explanation includes interviews with theoretical physicists who developed the underlying mathematics, their faces showing the mixture of excitement and unease common to people who have glimpsed the machinery underlying reality. Dr. Sarah Chen from the Institute for Advanced Physics speaks carefully. We're manipulating forces that have shaped the universe since moments after the Big Bang. The calculations work perfectly, but there are aspects of the mathematics that suggest capabilities beyond simple propulsion. The footage documents the crew's final weeks of preparation with the intimacy of a family documentary. Psychological evaluations reveal 5 individuals selected not just for their technical competence, but for their mental resilience and ability to maintain stability under conditions of extreme isolation and unprecedented stress. Each of us knew the risks. Holt reflects in a personal log recorded just before departure, his expression more serious than in earlier segments. Beyond the obvious dangers of interstellar travel, we were venturing into regions of space where rescue would be impossible and communication with Earth would be limited to status updates taking millions of years to arrive. We would be more alone than any human beings in history. But the psychological profiles also reveal the deep motivation driving each crew member. Trevaux speaks of wanting to open pathways for future generations to explore beyond our cosmic neighborhood. Granger discusses his fascination with discovering what forms life might take in environments we can barely imagine. Arai mentions his conviction that humanity's survival depends on understanding our place in the larger universe. Drovnik talks about building bridges across the void that separates island galaxies. The launch sequence unfolds with the grandeur of humanity's greatest achievement. The Ardent Voyager itself is revealed as a marvel of engineering that seems to blur the line between technology and art. Nearly 400 meters long, its hull flows in curves that suggest organic growth rather than mechanical assembly. The ship's surface bristles with sensor arrays designed to detect phenomena that exist only in theoretical mathematics. Communication equipment capable of maintaining contact across intergalactic distances and the exotic machinery of the Axion plasma drive that seems to bend space around itself. Departure from Lunar Station, March 20th, 2091, 3:47 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Holt's voice records as the Ardent Voyager separates from humanity's most advanced orbital facility. All systems showing optimal performance, crew reporting ready for extended operations, beginning navigation sequence for Andromeda, approach vector. The early weeks of their journey unfold like a documentary of exploration in its purest form. Time-lapse photography captures the Ardent Voyager, crossing the outer boundaries of the solar system, passing the heliopause where their sun's influence finally surrenders to the cosmic background radiation that fills the void between stars. The crew settles into routines that will sustain them through months of isolation. Daily system diagnostics that ensure their survival, scientific observations that advance human knowledge with each measurement, physical exercise that maintains both their bodies and their mental discipline, and the careful maintenance of equipment that must function perfectly without any possibility of replacement or repair. Week 6, April 30th, Holt records, his demeanour still reflecting the wonder of their accomplishment. We've officially entered intergalactic space. The last traces of solar influence disappeared behind us 3 days ago. From this point forward, we're truly alone in the cosmos, with only the light of distant galaxies to mark our position in space and time. The footage captures moments of pure wonder that remind viewers why humans explore. Granger documents cosmic phenomena visible only from intergalactic space, vast streams of gas connecting distant galaxy clusters, the subtle gravitational lensing effects of dark matter concentrations, the background radiation signatures left by cosmic events that occurred billions of years ago. RI pilots the ship through regions of interstellar dust that create aurora effects across their hull, transforming the Ardent Voyager into a moving light sculpture against the backdrop of infinity. Drovnik fine-tunes the Axion plasma drive with the instinctive precision of a master craftsman, coaxing ever greater efficiency from machinery that operates according to principles still being discovered. Travaux maintains ship discipline while encouraging the scientific discoveries that justify their unprecedented mission. Those early months represented humanity at its best, Holt reflects in recordings made much later, his voice carrying nostalgia, tinged with something darker. We were pioneers in the truest sense, pushing the boundaries of human knowledge into realms our species had only imagined. The technical challenges stimulated rather than overwhelmed us. We felt like explorers mapping new continents rather than travelers venturing into regions that might be actively hostile to human existence. But the documentary's tone begins shifting subtly as they cross the halfway point of their journey. Sleep schedules become irregular despite strict protocols designed to maintain circadian rhythms. Conversations grow shorter and more focused on technical matters, the easy camaraderie of the early weeks replaced by professional efficiency that lacks emotional warmth. Personal logs reveal increasing preoccupation with minor system fluctuations that fall well within normal operational parameters. Week 12, June 15th, Holt records, his appearance showing the first signs of strain. Dark circles have appeared under his eyes, and his usually meticulous grooming has become slightly careless. We're beginning to detect Andromeda's gravitational influence on our navigational systems. Long-range sensors are revealing structural details invisible from Earth-based observations. The galaxy appears to be significantly more massive than our calculations predicted. Granger's biological monitoring begins detecting subtle anomalies that don't appear in any reference materials. His research logs document cellular changes in the tissue samples he brought from Earth, modifications that suggest exposure to forms of energy that don't exist in their theoretical models. The changes aren't harmful, he reports to his personal recorder, though his usual scientific enthusiasm has been replaced by puzzled concern. The cellular modifications actually seem to improve efficiency and resilience, but they're unlike anything in the biological literature. Whatever's causing these changes, it's not accounted for in our models of deep space radiation or cosmic particle interaction. The changes Granger observes affect not only his laboratory specimens, but the crew themselves. Medical monitoring reveals gradual shifts in their biological rhythms, heart rates becoming more synchronized, brainwave patterns beginning to align in ways that suggest external influence, cellular regeneration rates increasing beyond normal human parameters. RI's pilot logs begin mentioning sleep disturbances that affect his professional performance. The usually composed officer speaks in increasingly brief sentences, his perfect posture showing signs of tension that manifest in unconscious movements and occasional tremors. Sleep quality degrading progressively over past 10 days, he reports to his recorder, his voice carrying uncharacteristic uncertainty. Dreams becoming more vivid and structured, often feel observed during rest periods as if something is watching from just outside visual range. Have conducted multiple security sweeps. No anomalies detected, but sensation persists and intensifies. Drovnik's engineering reports document equipment behavior that falls within acceptable operational parameters, but exhibits patterns he can't explain through conventional troubleshooting procedures. All propulsion systems functioning at optimal efficiency, he reports in his distinctive accent, but I'm detecting harmonic vibrations throughout ship's superstructure. Frequency matches human cardiac rhythm at rest. Amplitude suggests external source. Have inspected every mechanical system twice. No vibration source identified. Resonance pattern started 8 days ago and shows no sign of cessation. Travaux's command logs during this period reveal growing concern about crew psychological well-being, though his military training prevents him from expressing overt alarm that might compromise mission morale. Crew performance remains within acceptable parameters for extended deep space operations, he reports with characteristic precision. But I'm observing behavioral modifications consistent with environmental stress factors not covered in our mission preparation. Dr. Granger exhibits symptoms of chronic sleep deprivation despite claiming adequate rest periods. Pilot RI has reported multiple instances of auditory phenomena with no identified mechanical or electronic source. Engineer Drovnik demonstrates increasing preoccupation with minor system variations that fall well within normal operational tolerances. Holt's recordings during this period show a man struggling to maintain scientific objectivity while processing observations that challenge his understanding of what should be possible in deep space. Week 15, July 8th. Personal analysis suggests these phenomena have rational explanations grounded in established science. Extended isolation affects human psychology in predictable ways that are well documented in the literature. Cosmic radiation exposure can cause neurological symptoms that manifest as sensory hallucinations. The psychological stress of representing humanity's first contact with another galaxy could easily produce the behavioral changes we're experiencing. But his expression suggests a growing disconnect between rational explanation and intuitive understanding. However, the scientist in me is detecting patterns that correlate across multiple independent observation sets. The synchronized nature of our experiences suggests external causation rather than individual psychological responses to isolation stress. As the Ardent Voyager approaches what theoretical models predict should be Andromeda's dark matter envelope, the crew's experiences become increasingly difficult to dismiss as psychological artifacts of extended space travel. Week 18, July 30th, Holt records, his scientific excitement beginning to compete with less comfortable emotions. We've entered the region where dark matter concentrations should create measurable gravitational effects on our navigation systems. Our instruments are detecting structured electromagnetic emissions on frequencies that don't exist in our databases of natural cosmic phenomena. The emissions Holt refers to become a source of fascination and growing unease for the entire crew. Audio recordings from this period capture low-frequency patterns underlying normal ship operations, rhythmic pulses that seem to emanate from space itself rather than any identifiable mechanical or electronic source. These signals exhibit organization that suggests deliberate transmission rather than random cosmic background radiation. Drovnik reports with growing agitation. Frequency modulations follow patterns similar to biological neural activity. Amplitude variations match respiratory rhythms. Something is broadcasting structured information on wavelengths that should not exist in deep space environments. Granger's biological monitoring equipment begins detecting phenomena that force him to question fundamental assumptions about the relationship between living systems and their cosmic environment. We're not just observing these electromagnetic patterns, he reports with scientific fascination, tempered by personal unease. We're responding to them. Our physiological systems are synchronizing with external signal sources as if they were natural regulatory mechanisms. Heart rates, neural activity, cellular regeneration cycles, all showing progressive alignment with patterns originating from outside our ship. The synchronization Granger documents extends beyond individual physiology to encompass the crew as a collective unit. Their biological rhythms begin aligning not only with the mysterious signals from space, but with each other, creating a level of physiological coordination that doesn't exist in normal human groups. Week 20, August 20th, Holt records. All crew members are exhibiting synchronized biological functions that suggest external influence on our nervous systems. We're becoming something like a single organism with 5 separate components rather than 5 individuals sharing the same environment. The psychological effects become impossible to ignore when crew members begin experiencing identical dreams with details too specific to be coincidental. Sleep logs describe shared nocturnal experiences of floating through liquid environments while something vast and intelligent moves in the surrounding darkness. The dreams feel more substantial than waking experience. R.I. confides to his personal recorder, his usual emotional restraint beginning to crack. Swimming through an ocean that has no surface, no light source, just infinite depth extending in all directions. But I'm not alone in the water. Something enormous shares the space, something that's aware of my presence. Not threatening exactly, more like curious about what I am and why I'm there. Travaux's military discipline prevents him from indulging in speculative interpretation, but his reports acknowledge the unprecedented nature of their situation with growing concern. All crew members reporting virtually identical nocturnal experiences beginning approximately 15 days ago. No psychological or medical explanation exists in our databases for this degree of synchronized dreaming across multiple individuals. The timing and content consistency suggest external causation rather than standard isolation-induced psychological phenomena. As they penetrate deeper into Andromeda's outer regions, the Ardent Voyager encounters the first physical evidence that something extraordinary awaits them at the galaxy's core. They pass through stellar nurseries where new stars emerge from cosmic dust clouds, but the planetary systems they catalogue show deeply disturbing characteristics. Week 22, August 25th, Holt records, his scientific training struggling to process observations that don't fit established models of planetary formation and evolution. We've conducted detailed surveys of 47 star systems in this sector. Every single system displays identical anomalous characteristics that defy conventional explanations. The camera captures images that transform wonder into unease. Each surveyed world bears dozens of perfectly circular excavations that spiral inward towards the planetary core with geometric precision that suggests artificial rather than natural origin. The formations are too uniform to result from random impact events, too precisely centered to be coincidental, and too systematically distributed to represent natural geological processes. These formations aren't impact craters or volcanic features, Holt continues, his voice taking on the tone of someone trying to convince himself as much as his audience. The precision is extraordinary. Each excavation follows identical spiral patterns regardless of planetary composition or gravitational conditions. There's no debris field, no impact signature, no evidence of the violent processes that typically create planetary surface modifications. Granger's analysis of the excavated worlds provides no reassurance about their origin or purpose. Whatever created these formations consumed planetary material with surgical precision, he reports, his usual scientific objectivity strained by implications he's reluctant to acknowledge. The excavation patterns suggest systematic resource extraction rather than random destruction. We're observing evidence of controlled matter processing on a planetary scale. Drovnik's engineering perspective offers an interpretation that forces the crew to confront possibilities they've tried to avoid. These are not natural, geological processes, he states with flat certainty. Excavation patterns show evidence of controlled energy application at temperatures and pressures that indicate technological rather than natural causation. Planetary material was not destroyed through conventional means. It was converted to energy and extracted through methods we do not understand. As the Ardent Voyager approaches Andromeda's central regions, the stellar density increases to levels that overwhelm their visual processing systems. Millions of stars occupy each cubic parsec of space, creating a brilliant environment that forces them to rely on filtered sensors to avoid optical damage. But even among this stellar abundance, evidence of systematic resource extraction becomes increasingly obvious and disturbing. Week 26, September 20th, Holt records. The closer we approach the galactic center, the more evidence we discover of large-scale matter processing operations. Entire star systems have been stripped of their outer planets, leaving only stellar cores behind. The missing mass represents thousands of Earth-sized worlds that have simply vanished from existence. The pattern becomes impossible to dismiss as natural stellar evolution. Solar systems throughout Andromeda's core regions show clear evidence of deliberate harvesting. Outer planets missing with no debris fields to indicate where the material went. Asteroid belts completely consumed down to particles smaller than detection thresholds, and even some smaller stars showing signs of controlled matter extraction from their outer layers. Something has been systematically harvesting matter from this galaxy for an extended period, Trevaux states in his command log, his military training finally acknowledging the strategic implications of their discoveries. The evidence suggests sustained operations spanning millions of years. This isn't natural stellar evolution or random cosmic destruction. This represents resource extraction on a scale that indicates technological capability beyond our current understanding. The crew's psychological state continues deteriorating as they process the implications of what they're discovering. Sleep becomes increasingly elusive despite medical interventions designed to maintain normal rest cycles. The synchronized dreams intensify to the point where crew members sometimes continue conversations begun during sleep into their waking periods. The mysterious signals from space grow stronger with each passing day, and their biological monitoring equipment detects increasing synchronization between crew physiology and external electromagnetic patterns. We are changing in ways that go beyond normal human adaptation to deep space environments, Granger reports, with equal measures of scientific fascination and personal horror. Neural activity patterns are synchronizing with signal sources originating from the galactic core. Brainwave frequencies are shifting toward harmonics that don't exist in normal human neurology. We're becoming something else, something adapted to conditions that don't exist anywhere in human experience. Arai abandons his usual emotional restraint and speaks with increasing openness about experiences that challenge his understanding of reality. The presence in our dreams is getting stronger and more defined, he reports, his voice carrying wonder and terror in equal measure. I can sense something vast beginning to stir as we approach its location, not hostile but aware, like a sleeping giant opening its eyes after a rest measured in geological epochs, and it's pleased that we've made the journey to visit. Drovnik's engineering expertise allows him to detect technical anomalies that escape his crewmates' notice, anomalies that suggest their ship is no longer operating under purely human control. Ship systems responding to navigational inputs I am not providing, he reports with growing agitation. Course corrections occurring without manual command authorization. Life support systems optimizing for biological parameters we have not specified. Environmental controls adjusting for conditions that do not exist in our current location. The ship is being guided by external intelligence that has access to our control systems. As they establish orbit around Andromeda's central supermassive black hole, the crew makes their most significant and terrifying discovery. The accretion disk surrounding the black hole violates every principle of established astrophysics. Instead of chaotic matter spiraling randomly inward under gravitational influence, massive streamers of gas and stellar material move in highly coordinated patterns that suggest conscious control rather than natural physical processes. Week 30, October 15th, Holt records his scientific training, barely maintaining composure in the face of observations that challenge the fundamental laws of physics. The accretion disk surrounding the central black hole exhibits organized behavior that contradicts everything we understand about gravitational dynamics. These aren't random particle interactions driven by electromagnetic forces and gravitational gradients. The gas streamers are moving in synchronized waves that resemble the coordinated movement of biological appendages. The footage captures images that seem to defy rational interpretation. Tendrils of ionized gas, each measuring thousands of miles in diameter, weave through space in patterns that suggest deliberate control by some form of directing intelligence. They pulse in perfect rhythm, with the electromagnetic signals that have been growing stronger throughout the crew's approach to the galactic core. This fundamentally changes our understanding of black hole mechanics and galactic core dynamics, Holt continues, though his voice carries more apprehension than scientific excitement. Accretion disks should represent chaotic systems driven by gravitational forces and electromagnetic interactions between charged particles. What we're observing suggests conscious control over matter at scales that challenge our basic assumptions about the relationship between intelligence and physical processes. Granger volunteers to conduct a spacewalk for direct sample collection from the nearest gas streamer, a decision that reflects both scientific curiosity and the crew's desperate need to understand what they're encountering before it's too late to process the information. External sampling mission, October 18th, 11:47 AM ship time. His voice transmits through communication systems, as footage shows him maneuvering in his environmental suit toward a tendril of glowing matter that dwarfs their entire spacecraft. Approaching primary sampling target. Instrument readings are unlike anything in our reference databases. This material doesn't behave like ordinary stellar gas undergoing gravitational collapse. Granger's biological monitoring systems spike as he approaches the massive gas streamer, and his voice takes on a tone that blends scientific wonder with existential terror. The molecular structure exhibits organization at levels that shouldn't exist in ionized stellar material, he transmits, his voice filled with amazement and growing fear. This isn't dead matter being consumed by gravitational forces. The gas streamer is extending from the black hole rather than flowing into it. These formations are like neural pathways in a vast nervous system. The entire galactic core is operating as a single organized entity. His final transmission comes as a whisper of discovery and horror that will haunt the remaining crew members for the rest of their mission. My God, it's not stellar material at all. It's alive, conscious. The entire galactic core is a living organism, and it knows we're here. It's been watching us approach, studying us, learning about us. We're not explorers investigating a natural phenomenon. We're specimens being examined by something that treats galaxies the way we treat. The communication cuts to static. When the crew activates emergency retrieval protocols for Granger's safety tether, they find his environmental suit intact but completely empty. The suit shows no signs of damage from heat, radiation, impact or pressure differential. The tether itself hasn't been severed by any known force. The molecular bonds have been dissolved with precision that suggests controlled disassembly at the atomic level. Dr. Granger has been lost. Trevorrow reports with military stoicism that fails to conceal his profound shock. No distress signal was transmitted, no indication of equipment failure or environmental hazard. His suit was recovered in perfect condition but empty, as if he simply vanished from inside the environmental protection systems without disturbing the suit's structural integrity. The remaining crew members struggle to process both the loss of their colleague and the implications of how he disappeared. Their instruments detect no dangerous environmental conditions, no energy sources capable of causing such precise molecular dissolution, no evidence of external attack or equipment malfunction. Week 31, October 22nd, Holt records alone in his quarters, the isolation beginning to show in his appearance and demeanour. Elias didn't die in an accident or equipment failure. Something removed him from his environmental suit with precision that indicates technological capability far beyond human achievement. We're no longer dealing with natural phenomena that can be understood through conventional scientific analysis. The psychological impact of Granger's disappearance accelerates the remaining crew members' mental deterioration. RI becomes increasingly unresponsive to external stimuli, spending hours staring at the swirling accretion disk visible through observation ports while maintaining conversations with entities that other crew members cannot perceive. The patterns are incredibly beautiful when you learn to see them properly, he murmurs to his recorder, his voice carrying the disconnected quality of someone experiencing a profound spiritual revelation. Like watching the thoughts of something vast and ancient as it processes information on scales we can barely comprehend. It's trying to communicate with us, show us something important about the nature of reality. I can almost understand what it wants us to know. Drovnik abandons his engineering station entirely, claiming that human oversight of their ship's systems is no longer necessary because something else has assumed control of their vessel's operations. Is no longer human spacecraft, he states in his final technical report, his accent thicker than usual as stress affects his command of English. Ship responds to external navigational commands transmitted on frequencies we cannot detect or monitor. Navigation, life support, propulsion systems, all controlled by intelligence that is not us. We are no longer crew operating vessel. We are passengers being transported to destination chosen by others. Trevorrow maintains command discipline as long as humanly possible, but his logs reveal a man watching his mission and his crew disintegrate beyond his ability to control or comprehend. Crew effectiveness has degraded beyond acceptable mission parameters, he reports with characteristic precision. Dr. Holt maintains functional capacity, but shows signs of obsessive documentation behavior that may indicate psychological stress response. Pilot RI exhibits periods of catatonic unresponsiveness, lasting several hours, followed by apparent communication with external entities. Engineer Drovnik has abandoned his station and claims our vessel is under control of external forces. I'm implementing emergency protocols, but our situation may have progressed beyond standard recovery procedures. Holt continues documenting everything with scientific rigor that becomes increasingly desperate as he realizes he may be recording humanity's final message to the universe. Week 32, October 30th. I'm beginning to understand the true nature of what we've encountered. The supermassive black hole at Andromeda's center isn't just a gravitational phenomenon resulting from stellar collapse and matter accretion. It's exhibiting behaviors that can only be described as biological functions operating at cosmic scales. The accretion disk functions like a digestive system, processing stellar material with the efficiency and organization of organic metabolism. As if responding to his growing comprehension, the mysterious signals permeating their ship intensify dramatically. What began as subtle, low-frequency electromagnetic patterns now resolves into something unmistakably resembling biological processes. Slow, deep pulsations that sound like respiration on a scale that encompasses the entire galactic core. The sounds we've been detecting throughout our approach aren't random electromagnetic interference from natural cosmic sources. Holt continues, his voice barely steady as the implications become clear. They're biological functions. The galaxy is breathing. Something unimaginably vast has been using Andromeda's structure as its body for millions of years, feeding on stellar material and growing more complex with each meal. The breathing sounds become a constant presence aboard the Ardent Voyager, creating an atmosphere of living awareness that makes normal human conversation nearly impossible. The crew moves through their daily routines, accompanied by the slow inhalation and exhalation of something that measures its existence in geological epochs rather than human lifespans. November 3rd, Holt records in what will prove to be one of his final coherent personal logs. The entity is fully aware of our presence and has been observing us since we entered its sphere of influence. I can feel its attention focusing on our ship, like a microscope examining cellular structures. We're no longer explorers investigating natural phenomena. We're specimens being studied by an intelligence that observes the evolution of galaxies the way we might watch bacteria, cultures developing in laboratory conditions. Trevaux makes a final desperate attempt to maintain command authority by ordering emergency departure procedures, but the ship no longer responds to human control inputs. All navigation systems have become unresponsive to manual override, he reports with the calm precision of someone documenting a catastrophic situation. Engine startup sequences initiate normally, but immediately abort without error messages or system failure indications. We're being maintained in orbital position by forces that exceed our technological capacity to understand, measure, or resist. The observation deck becomes Holt's final refuge as the rest of the ship falls under the influence of something that defies every category of human knowledge. He establishes his recording equipment facing the main viewport, determined to document their ultimate discoveries for whatever form of human civilization might eventually recover their transmissions. November 8th, final mission entries. My crewmates have succumbed to whatever form of influence emanates from the galactic core. Commander Trevaux sealed himself in his quarters 4 days ago and no longer responds to communication attempts or emergency override codes. Engineer Drovnik disappeared from the ship during a rest cycle with no indication of airlock activation or departure procedures. Pilot RI remains at his duty station but exhibits no response to external stimuli or emergency protocols. The camera shows Holt alone in the dimly lit observation area, his face drawn with exhaustion but still reflecting the intellectual curiosity that has driven his entire career. Beyond the reinforced viewport, the accretion disk continues its rhythmic pulsations. Waves of energy that seem to synchronize perfectly with the breathing sounds now constant throughout their ship. I've made a discovery that challenges our fundamental assumptions about galactic structure and cosmic evolution, he continues, his scientific objectivity maintained despite obvious psychological strain. Galaxies aren't just gravitationally bound collections of stars, gas and dark matter. They're living organisms, biological entities that feed on stellar material and grow over timescales measured in billions of years. The breathing sounds intensify as he speaks, as if something vast is paying closer attention to his words and the implications he's beginning to understand. The collision course between Andromeda and our Milky Way isn't random celestial mechanics driven by gravitational attraction. Holt's voice drops to barely above a whisper. It's a predatory organism approaching its next source of nourishment. Andromeda has been systematically consuming smaller galaxies throughout its existence, growing larger and more sophisticated with each feeding cycle that spans millions of years. Through the observation port, something extraordinary and terrifying begins to manifest in the swirling patterns of the accretion disk. The chaotic movement of gas and stellar debris starts organizing itself into more recognizable structures. Two massive concentrations of matter, each spanning thousands of light years, separate from the general flow and position themselves with deliberate precision. The entity is revealing itself. Holt breathes, his camera capturing the impossible sight of galactic matter arranging itself into what can only be described as organs of perception. It's been aware of our approach since we entered its outer influence. Our entire journey, every discovery we've made, every reaction we've had, all of it has been guided by its will. The cosmic formations focus on their tiny spacecraft with an attention that feels almost physical. The breathing sounds take it on a different quality, deeper and more resonant, like something ancient and patient, expressing satisfaction at a long-awaited meeting. We thought we came here as representatives of human scientific achievement, Holt continues, his voice growing fainter as the magnitude of their situation becomes clear. But we've been brought here to serve as samples, living examples of our species that will help this entity understand the nature of its next meal. The two massive structures in the accretion disk shift closer to their position, each one containing more organized matter than Earth's entire solar system. They pulse with internal light that suggests not just awareness, but intelligence operating on scales that dwarf human comprehension. It's been waiting, Holt whispers as the cosmic eyes examine their vessel with the careful attention of a researcher studying a fascinating specimen. Waiting for our species to develop the technology necessary to cross intergalactic space. We're not the first to make this journey. The excavated planets we discovered weren't just feeding sites, they were examination chambers, where other civilizations were studied before being consumed. The lights outside grow brighter, and the ship's hull begins resonating in harmony with the galactic breathing. Through the observation port, more structures become visible in the accretion disk, vast networks of organized matter that resemble neural pathways, circulatory systems, and other biological architecture scaled to cosmic proportions. The truth about galactic evolution. Holt's voice becomes almost inaudible as something vast and ancient turns its complete attention to their tiny vessel. Galaxies don't simply collide and merge through gravitational attraction. They're consumed by entities that have been feeding and growing since the earliest epochs of cosmic history, and this entity has spent millions of years preparing to consume our corner of the universe. The cosmic eyes move impossibly close, filling the viewport with structures so massive that human perception struggles to process their scale. The breathing sounds become overwhelming, but beneath them Holt can hear something else, a subtle harmonic that resembles communication. "It's trying to tell me something," he says, his scientific training compelling him to document everything, even as his sanity strains under the weight of cosmic revelation. Not words, but concepts transmitted directly into consciousness. It wants me to understand that we're part of something larger, that human civilization, our entire galaxy, represents just one stage in a feeding cycle that has continued since the universe began cooling enough to support organized matter. The harmonic patterns in the breathing become more complex, and Holt's expression changes as information flows directly into his awareness through channels that bypass normal human sensory processing. The entity isn't malevolent, he reports with wonder and terror competing in his voice. It's simply following biological imperatives that operate on timescales we can't comprehend. To something that measures existence in billions of years, consuming galaxies is as natural as breathing. And we're not victims. We're participants in cosmic processes that are so vast and ancient that concepts like good and evil become meaningless. The ship begins to shake as gravitational forces beyond human understanding manipulate their vessel's position. Through the viewport, the cosmic eyes seem to blink, a process that involves the coordinated movement of matter across thousands of light years. Final observation, Holt whispers as reality itself seems to bend around their location. Consciousness exists at every level of cosmic organization. Molecules, cells, organisms, ecosystems, planets, solar systems, galaxies. Each level represents a form of awareness that participates in processes occurring at the next level of scale. We've discovered that intelligence doesn't end with biological organisms. It extends upward through cosmic architecture we never imagined possible. The breathing sounds reach a crescendo that seems to harmonize with the fundamental frequencies of space-time itself. The accretion disk begins rotating faster, and streams of matter start flowing in patterns that suggest preparation for some form of cosmic digestion. The collision with our galaxy will begin sooner than our calculations predicted. Holt's final words are barely audible over the cosmic symphony surrounding them. This entity has been accelerating its approach since it became aware of our technological development. It knows we're ready to be studied, catalogued, and ultimately consumed. And there's nothing we can do to prevent what's coming, because we're part of its biology now. The cosmic eyes begin to close, and the last image transmitted shows Holt staring into a darkness that spans galactic distances, while something unimaginably vast prepares to complete a feeding cycle that began before Earth's sun ignited. We came seeking knowledge about the universe. His voice fades into static. Instead, we discovered that we are the universe's food. And the universe is very, very hungry. The transmission cuts to absolute silence, then static, then an emptiness that seems to absorb sound itself. The footage recovered from this mission was discovered aboard an automated probe that somehow escaped Andromeda's gravitational influence and drifted through intergalactic space for 7 years before being detected by deep space monitoring stations. The probe's databanks contained the complete documentary record, though several files showed evidence of deliberate editing or information gaps that suggest some form of external manipulation. The official ESA report classified the mission as a catastrophic systems failure during deep space operations, resulting in total crew loss. Dr. Adrian Holt and his colleagues were posthumously honored as heroes of human space exploration, and their names were added to the memorial wall at Lunar Station, alongside those of other deep space pioneers who gave their lives advancing human knowledge. However, classified addenda to the official report note several disturbing developments that occurred after the probe's recovery. Long-range telescopes detected a 347% increase in stellar formation rates within Andromeda's core regions, suggesting accelerated matter processing on a galactic scale. Gravitational wave detectors recorded anomalous space-time distortions emanating from Andromeda's location that don't match any known astrophysical phenomena. Most significantly, refined calculations based on the probe's navigational data indicate that Andromeda's approach velocity toward the Milky Way has increased by approximately 23% since the mission's conclusion. Deep space monitoring stations have also detected structured electromagnetic emissions from Andromeda's direction, signals that bear disturbing similarities to the patterns documented in Dr. Holt's final transmissions. These signals appear to be growing stronger and more complex over time. In light of these discoveries, the ESA Emergency Council has implemented Protocol 7, the permanent suspension of all deep space exploration missions beyond the local group boundary, the classification of all materials related to galactic collision scenarios as ultra-secret, and the establishment of Project Lighthouse, a crash program to develop defensive technologies for scenarios that officially do not exist. The public continues to be told that the Andromeda collision represents a natural astronomical event occurring billions of years in the future. The truth that we may be living in the final centuries before a cosmic predator arrives to feed remains known only to a handful of individuals with ultra-secret clearances. Dr. Sarah Chen, the theoretical physicist who helped develop the Axiom plasma drive, has submitted a formal recommendation that all research into faster-than-light propulsion be permanently discontinued. In her classified report, she notes, "We have given our cosmic predator detailed information about human technological capabilities, biological structure, and psychological vulnerabilities. Our attempt to explore the universe may have accelerated our own consumption." The Andromeda Galaxy continues its approach toward the Milky Way. Revised estimates, based on classified observations, place the beginning of gravitational interaction in approximately 2.8 billion years, nearly 2 billion years sooner than previous calculations suggested. End of recovered footage, classification, ultra-secret, eyes only, access limited to director level and above, breach of classification protocols, subject to immediate termination and permanent detention. By order of the ESA Emergency Council, there are discoveries that humanity is not prepared to survive. Project Lighthouse initiated. May God help us all. Additional note found in Dr. Chen's personal effects after her apparent suicide. The mathematics were beautiful, elegant, perfect. We thought we were solving equations that would free humanity from the constraints of our solar system. We never considered that we might be solving equations designed to test whether a species had developed sufficient technological sophistication to be worth harvesting. The Axiom plasma drive doesn't just manipulate dark matter, it sends a signal across intergalactic space announcing that we're ready for collection. We built our own dinner bell and rang it as loudly as possible, and something heard us ring it, something vast and patient and eternally hungry. I can't live with what we've done, but more than that, I can't live knowing what's coming to find us. Dr. Sarah Chen, final entry, Project Lighthouse, terminated.